Well, it's been a turbulent fallout since Arsenal were eliminated from the Champions League last night. Many people have been glued to their phones, social media, the general footballing media at large, to see what the reaction is. I know I've been doing so, as well as making content myself, listening to podcasts, watching Arsenal content creators lose their minds, and some of them not lose their minds and be a bit more philosophical about it. Very, very interesting. Mikel Arteta, has he got too much power at Arsenal? Some people are speculating maybe when Berta comes in, the new sporting director takes it away from him and maybe it just allows him to, to coach the team. They've been really, really interesting. Yeah, all the things that have come out of it, because I'm going to speak in a moment. Today, Isak has been linked to Arsenal again. Of course, they just desperately need that striker, because there's so many radical ways of looking at it. Now, of course, Arsenal have dealt with injuries this season. They don't have a striker. They've often played well, generated a lot of XG, but not converted. They've been, criticised of being a Galactico Tony Pulis Stoke in terms of just scoring from corners. Thomas Partey just constantly doing long throw-ins against PSG. We're far away now from Arsene Wenger's, swanky footballing North Londoners. Do you know what I mean? It's a whole different thing now. Arteta coming out saying we've been the best team in the Champions League he doesn't help himself sometimes. Look, I think before we get into this, we need... By the way, welcome back to Football Yannick. How's it going? Thank you for all the recent support. It's been wicked. Really enjoying it here on the channel. So thanks for liking and subscribing. Very much. Road to 17,000 subs now. So that's awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you for your support. Look, I feel like before we dig into Arsenal anyway, Arteta's done broadly an excellent job. Yeah. I mean, whether he's the guy and whether, the stuff behind this, all the weird pickpocket stuff he does and playing You'll Never Walk Alone. He tries to think outside the box, but he comes across as a little bit like David Brent, like the Spanish David Brent. You know what I mean? He's very peculiar. Often the greats are, let's be real. But look, his biggest achievement for what I think his biggest achievement is, he's elevated Arsenal out of any form of banter era. Their banter era is they haven't won a trophy in ages, whereas even Man United, in their worst period in the Premier League, their time in the Premier League, this is their worst period ever. Man United, under Ten Hag last couple of seasons or whatever, since he finished did he finish quite well in this first season? But in his last two seasons, he's won trophies, Erik Ten Hag. Arsenal haven't won a trophy in 5 years. And even if, it's about finishing well in the league, you need to sprinkle a trophy in there every now and again if you want to be truly great, yeah? But his greatest achievement is elevating Arsenal out of the banter echelons of the Premier League. He's constantly finishing top four, probably. The last 3 seasons. That's good. He came in. I always want to remind people this, because not necessarily to banter, maybe a little bit to banter, but also to demonstrate how far they've come. He was the favourite to be sacked as a manager in the Premier League for so long. Finishing mid-table and just really underachieving, but he sorted them out. And they never get slapped about, Arsenal. They never get beaten up and slapped about, and and that's massive. It really is. So he's done that to them. He's kind of, in many ways, Chelsea-fied them, like at the old Chelsea. That was like big, strong boys that just didn't get beaten up. And Arsenal used to be the sort of opposite of that. They try and play pretty football, but it wouldn't always work. So look, he's done that. He's elevated them out of the banter era in terms of doing what Man United are doing in the league. But Man United fans can go to Arsenal and wave their League Cup. They can wave their FA Cup, and then probably, for my money, their Europa Conference League trophy. These are trophies. I don't care what you say about League Cup. It's a trophy. In the same way, I'm going to celebrate if my team, because it'll be a hard final, should we get there, win the Conference League. That is a major trophy. Chelsea won multiple Champions Leagues and multiple Europa Leagues and Premier Leagues. I'm taking the Conference League all the way to the bank, mate. I don't want to be in it every year, but I would like one and complete the set. It's a freaking trophy. Trophies, or you watch a team in a tournament play all the way, certain players do well, they create a narrative, you get to a final, you win it, you lift a trophy, lovely jubbly, dopamine hit in the brain, mate. This is what football's about. So Man United fans, granted they've been, would they swap? They might swap being. I mean, I guess they would swap to be in Arsenal's position, and maybe they wouldn't be because they get these highs at the end of the season of trophies, but they also have these miserable, just whole season-long campaigns of just being at the bottom of the Premier League table when you're Man United or indeed a Tottenham or whatever, which is miserable, So, excuse me. I get it, but football's about winning trophies, and obviously the league table is the best sort of barometer of how good you are as a team. Arsenal are a good team because they were last few years they finished near the top. But there is the question now, and that's what I mean across like sports radio, football podcasts, YouTube, television. Everyone's talking about now it's 5 seasons without him. And of course, he did win the FA Cup. People are calling it the COVID Cup, not me. Although as a Chelsea fan, talking about how Chelsea were looking better than Arsenal before the goal scorer Pulisic had to come off of a hammy and Anthony Taylor sent off Kovacic for being fouled. Bitter? Yes. But the facts, that's the facts. And look, I'm not trying to take away the FA Cup from Arteta, but again, the biggest criticism would be that it wasn't his team yet. It was Unai Emery's players and team, etc., etc. But he's built his team, and it's a very good team. And it's a team that just doesn't get mugged off, which is huge. I really must stress that. In a recent period where my clubs finish mid-table, where your Man Uniteds and your Tottenhams are finishing bottom, lower mid-table, it really is huge that he's done that. So it's interesting because there are some high-profile Arsenal fans that are and have been Arteta out for a while. Many of you know Troops, once of AFTV. I know some other Arsenal fans that are frustrated. A lot of them are backing Arteta, and I think that's probably the measured thing to do. But when do you not? Because obviously the big talking point here is the ownerships, like the Cronkies, yeah. They will be loving this because he's doing what, he's making the money. You finish top 4, you go deep in the Champions League, your job is done, mate. You get your bonus. That's all you need to do because you're making the money. You're making the big P's for the owners. It's the fans that need that next prestigious, thing. Winning, basically. So there's 2 things here. Arsenal, of course, missed loads of chances. They need a striker. And today, I'm looking at, I've just literally Googled Isak Arsenal, and I've got BBC, London Evening Standard, Goal.com, TBR Football, Transfermarkt article, and indeed The Sun. They're all talking about Isak and Arsenal, that Isak himself said he'd like to stay in the Premier League, but he'd like to go to a Premier League club with a prestigious European history. I mean, he's probably talking about Liverpool in terms of getting high wages and a team that's good to go now. He could be the long-term succession plan for Salah, but maybe not. Maybe he will go to Arsenal. And if he go to Arsenal, firstly, Arsenal will have money to spend. They will. They'll spend money on a striker. They will give a senior striker a lot of money. They'll give them a big salary. Chelsea start and do lower base rates, and they're doing incentive-based wages. United is broke. Tottenham won't do it. Man City have got Erling Haaland and Marmoush. Do you know what I mean? So maybe he'll go to Arsenal, Isak. I think Isak is the get. You get him, yeah. If Arsenal sign Alexander Isak, that's it. If they don't do well, if they don't do it, then maybe you look at Arteta and the style of football, because Isak is a Premier League proven player that will get assists, that will get goals, that can operate out wide. He is great. He's even got slight Thierry Henry elements about him sometimes, which Arsenal fans would like. If they drop the bag on Isak and somehow get him to sign 100, he'd be a Premier League record, of course, over 115. So I mean, if you get him for 120, even that's great. Personally, I think, unless there's if they pay loads up front, but if you're doing if you're paying it off over 5 years, it's going to be a massive fee. And And then that will be the litmus test for Arteta. You got this guy, bro. You got the sign. Because that's another thing. I spoke earlier in the video about him maybe having too much control and bringing in the sporting director, Berta, and some other people actually to do squad development and building here and do some collective effort, which actually at the highest level clubs need that hierarchy as sporting directors. They just do. They do. In the modern landscape of football, success demands that. That's my opinion, but I firmly believe that. So, of course, what is Arteta's track record with forwards? Well, we know he was desperate for Mudryk, and maybe he would have got a really good tune out of Mudryk. Chelsea fans, including myself, have seen flashes. He ended up signing, Leandro Trossard, who's more seen. He's 30 now, from Brighton. Sort of an all right player. He should be. I mean, Arsenal should be a really good team with first choice attackers, and Trossard could, fair enough, be a rotational option, but I still think it's kind of peculiar. Saka, world class. Discussion over. Right wing, fine, done. Star boy, captain, future captain, whatever. Striker and left winger. So who else has he signed? He signed Gabriel Jesus. I think that was a mistake. He's on massive wages as well at Arsenal. He signed Kai Havertz because he wanted to play him as a number 8. This was heavily reported as an offensive number 8. So it would have been like Ødegaard, Havertz flanking Declan Rice. And of course, the story's changed massively. We've learned Declan Rice operates much better slightly further up in that 8. And then you have a Partey or a Jorginho or whatever behind. But he signed Kai Havertz as an 8 because he wanted this really effective guy who can operate in the half spaces, which in theory, and trust me, I'm a Chelsea fan, I know, Havertz is. He's a very talented player, but like at Chelsea, Arteta's like, oh, I can't really work this guy out. He is quite tall and good at winning headers, though. I'm just going to play him as a striker. And suddenly, your Arsenal are paid £68 million for Kai Havertz, which is a lot of money. Chelsea's paid 72 when they first bought him, and then his value would have depreciated a bit, and his book value would have been a lot less than 68. So Chelsea were like, thank you very much, and there was no one else bidding for them, so it was crazy why they paid that much. And of course, they're paying £300,000 a week. Similar to Saka, but Saka is the star boy, the icon, the shirt seller. Do you know what I mean? But Havertz, and I'm not trying to denigrate Havertz's talents. I think he's an excellent footballer. I think he's really unique. In many ways, a unicorn. But he's being misprofiled, probably in Premier League football generally, let alone as a number 8, as a number 10, as a striker, as a second striker. So suddenly, Arteta, who's buying all these players and giving them massive wages, that's being a manager too. That's management, and that's something you can be critiqued for, I think, personally. So, look, if they get in sporting director big old Bertie, they bring in Isak's, might be unrealistic, but apparently the aforementioned sporting director loves Viktor Gyökeres, and he, again, is an elite finisher. So they bring in one of these, man. For me, that's it. Like, go and do it. And when I say go and do it, I mean go and win the Premier League or Champions League. I don't mean like finally, break that trophy duck with a League Cup and finish 5th. I mean, go and freaking do it, bro. Like, how old is, let's have a look here. How old is Declan Rice? Because he's not like a kid anymore. So yeah, he's 20. He'll turn 27 next winter, prime. Yeah, Saka's still young, I think. How's Saka? Yeah, he's 20. He's very young, 23. That's Chelsea level young. So Declan Rice. What about Ødegaard? Because he's also, captain. So entering his prime, pretty much turns 27 the exact same time as Declan Rice. And this is it. Start your dynasty. Go win the Premier League while these guys are 27 and show you can be a very strong team for a while, like a team that actually wins. Because for me, it's going to be, or get off the pot. I'd be very interested to learn. Look, I'm not saying Arsenal should walk away from Arteta because the squad's been entirely built on his image. And it's kind of very specific in many ways. So, he's obviously got to keep going. And like I said, the owners will be happy as Larry with him. That's the main thing, dude. Do you know what I mean? Because he's reaching the targets. It's just like, will the fans be happy with this for how long will the fans be accepting this? Always the bridesmaid vibes. Will they be like, yeah, you know what, we get a lot of points total. We get a few results along the way. Is that enough? Is that enough? And again, this video isn't hating on Arteta. I really, really want to recognise. I'm a rival fan. I love them exiting the Champions League, of course. But I am a football fan, and I recognise the excellent body of work Arteta has done. Like, even, you know, when people like Troops or other Arsenal fans say, I want him out or whatever, I'd like to think as well they could recognise what he's done. Do you know what I mean? He's done good work. And I'm getting, my club's gagging for a trophy as well. We haven't won a trophy since 2023, whatever the Club World Cup was. So yeah, it's already been. This will be the third season we probably win a trophy now, though. I think anyway. My brain scrambled. Point being, fans want trophies. Anyway, let me know what you think. As always, thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. Yeah, thank you for liking and subscribing to this channel, Football Yannick. And I do hope to see you back here, man. Peace. Okay, I haven't stopped recording. There we go.